Welcome everyone to another audio recording, and today we're going to be reading from the book The Spirit of Intimacy, Ancient African Teachings in the Ways of Relationships, written by Elder Sobonfu Somé. And on the cover of this book there is a quote by Alice Walker, who is the author of The Color Purple, and it reads, "This is a teacher who can help us put together so many things that our modern Western world has broken." Also, for those of you that remember, I have shared on multiple platforms over the years words and interviews by Elder Sobonfu Somé and her husband, Dr. Malidoma Somé. He wrote many books, but one of the ones that I did a reading of was Of Water and Spirit. They are both transitioned, and they are Dagara elders coming out of Burkina Faso, also with some connection to the traditions within Tamale, Ghana. Reading Chapter 13, The Gatekeepers. The words gay and lesbian do not exist in the village, but there is the word gatekeeper. Gatekeepers are people who live a life at the edge between two worlds, the world of the village and the world of spirit. Though they do not marry in this world, they say they have partners in other dimensions. What they do, they don't like to communicate to anyone. It is their right to keep it to themselves. Everybody in the village respects that, because without gatekeepers, there is no access to other worlds. Most people in the West define themselves and others by sexual orientation. This way, at looking at gatekeepers, will kill the spirit of the gatekeeper. Gatekeepers in the village are able to do their job simply because of strong spiritual connection, and also their ability to direct their sexual energy not to other people, but to spirit. The gatekeepers stand on the threshold of the gender line. They are mediators between the two genders. They make sure that there is peace and balance between women and men. If the two genders are in conflict and the whole village is caught in it, the gatekeepers are the ones to bring peace. Gatekeepers do not take sides. They simply act as the sword of truth and integrity. There are many gates that link a village to other worlds. The only people who have access to all these gates are the gatekeepers. I should mention here that there are two different kinds of gatekeepers. The first group has the ability to guard a limited number of gates to the other world, specifically those that correspond to the Dagara cosmology: water, earth, fire, mineral, and nature, because they vibrate the energies of those gates. The second group of gatekeepers, which is our focus here, has a responsibility of overseeing all the gates. They are in contact not only with the elemental gates, but also with many others. They have one foot in all the other worlds and the other foot here. This is why the vibration of their body is totally different from others. They also have access to other dimensional entities such as the Contombele, small beings who are very magical and knowledgeable. They are known as leprechauns in the Irish tradition. Now, what would happen if you're dealing with a culture that doesn't care about the gateways? What happens is that a gay person cannot do their job. Gatekeepers are left unable to accomplish their purpose. This is one of the most distinguishing factors about gays in the village. Now, as to their sexual orientation, nobody cares about this question. They care only about their performance as gatekeepers. I figure if they want the people in the village to know about their sexuality, they will share it with them. I once heard that one of the reasons why gatekeepers are able to open gates to other dimensions is in the way they use their sexual energy. Their ability to focus their sexual energy in a particular way allows them to open and close different gates. The life of gay people in the West is in many ways a reaction to pressure from a society that rejects them. This is partly because a culture that has forgotten so much about itself will displace certain groups of people, such as the gay community, from their true roles. In the village, they are not seen as the other. They are not forced to create a separate community in order to survive. People do not put a negative label on them. They are regarded no differently than any other child of the village. They are born gatekeepers with specific purposes and are encouraged to fulfill the role they're born in the interest of the community. In the village, gatekeepers have an eye on both genders. They can help the genders to understand each other better than usual in their daily life. That's why a group of women, for example, might gather and bring a male gatekeeper to help them understand certain village issues. The same thing happens on the other side with a female gatekeeper coming into the middle of the men's circle. In the village, homosexuality is seen very differently than it is seen in the West, in part because all sexuality is spiritually based. Taken away from its spiritual context, it becomes a source of controversy and can be exploited. In the village, you would never see gatekeepers or anybody for that matter displaying their sexuality or commenting on the sexuality of others. Gatekeepers hold the keys to other dimensions. They maintain a certain alignment between the spirit world and the world of the village. Without them, the gates to the other world would be shut. On the other side of these gates lies the spirit world or other dimensions. Gatekeepers are in constant communication with beings who live there, who have the ability to teach us how to deal with ritual. And gatekeepers have the capacity to take other people to those places. A gatekeeper's knowledge is different from the knowledge of mentors and elders. This is because elders do not necessarily have access to all the gateways. The gatekeepers, on the other hand, have access to all the dimensions. They can open any gate. Although their knowledge is very broad, elders will call upon gatekeepers to help them open a particular gate or help them better understand what the spirit world is about. Gays and lesbians in the West are often very spiritual, but they have been taken away from their connection with spirit. My feeling is that without that outlet or that role in the culture, they have to find other ways of defining themselves. This could be one of the reasons why they would want to get married or make themselves look as though they do not have a unique purpose. I have seen people in the West who have lost their identity try to usurp the role of gatekeeper once they learn about the power it involves. They do this for their own benefit without really knowing what it means to be a true gatekeeper. Being a false gatekeeper is not helpful to anyone. It can only be harmful to the usurper. These people need to understand that in the village, a person doesn't become a gatekeeper out of a desire for power or even because of sexual orientation. No. Gatekeeping is part of one's life purpose, announced before birth and developed through rigorous initiatory training to ensure that its power is not misused. A gatekeeper is responsible for a whole village, a whole tribe. Gatekeeping is not a game. Even though in the village homosexual relationships are not commonly the subject of ritual, here in the West they have become so. So simply because of the circumstances of life, the ash rituals and almost any other rituals I have described may be used to strengthen gay and lesbian relationships. What we have looked at regarding intimacy, sexuality, ritual, conflict, and loss applies to homosexual relationships in the West, because any kind of relationship, unless it's false or empty or superficial, comes with problems, and there's a need to carefully maintain and sometimes repair it. Maybe the only difference for gays and lesbians would be to have other gatekeepers, in addition to non-gay family members and friends involved in their rituals. And this concludes the excerpt reading of Chapter 13, The Gatekeepers, from The Spirit of Intimacy, Ancient African Teachings in the Ways of Relationships by Elder Sobonfu Somé. I want to preface that I'm also going to read another article of an interview from her husband, Dr. Malidoma Somé. Before I read that, I would like to address the following. From the research I've done, both Elder Sobonfu Somé and Dr. Malidoma Somé have expressed that they are doing their best to translate from their language and cultural practices in the English language, and not all things translate the same. So sometimes they may use certain verbiage that in the context of the world we live in might rub some of you the wrong way, and that is completely understandable. Please hold grace for the reality that not all things in indigeneity is translatable in the times we're living in now. Sometimes there is no word to encapsulate the experience. The article I'm going to read is, I believe, from Unseen Art Scene, The Invisible Made Visible. It says that it was posted Saturday, the 2nd of August in 2014, and it is about the Guardians of the Gates, an interview with Malidoma Somé and it is done by Bert H. Hoff. Bert asks, at conflict hour, you told us that your culture honors gays and having a higher vibrational level that enabled them to be guardians of the gateways to the spirit world. You suggested that our Western view limits itself by focusing only on their sexual role. Can you elaborate more for our readers? Dr. Malidoma responds, I don't know how to put it in terms that are clear enough for an audience that I think needs as much understanding of this gender issue as people in this country do. But at least among the Dagara people, gender has very little to do with anatomy. It is purely energetic. In that context, a male who is physically male can vibrate female energy and vice versa. This is where the real gender is. Anatomic differences are simply there to determine who contributes what for the continuity of the tribe. It does not mean necessarily that there is a kind of line that divides people on that basis. And this is something that also touches on what has become known here as the gay or lesbian issue. Again, in the culture that I come from, this is not the issue. These people are looked on essentially as people. The whole notion of gay does not exist in the indigenous world. That does not mean that there are not people there who feel the way that certain people feel in this culture that has led to them being referred to as gay. The reason why I'm saying there are no such people is because the gay person is very well integrated into the community with the functions that delete this whole sexual differentiation of him or her. The gay person is looked at as primarily as a gatekeeper. The earth is looked at from my tribal perspective as a very, very delicate machine or consciousness with high vibrational points, which certain people must be guardians of in order for the tribe to keep its continuity with the gods and with the spirits that dwell there. Spirits of this world and spirits of the other worlds. Any person who is at this link between this world and the other world experiences a state of vibrational consciousness which is a far higher and far different from the one that a normal person would experience. This is what makes a gay person gay. This kind of function is not one that society votes for certain people to fulfill. It is one that people are set to decide on prior to being born. You decide that you will be a gatekeeper before you are born, and it is that decision that provides you with the equipment Malidoma gestures by circling waist area with his hands that you bring into this world. So when you arrive here, you begin to vibrate in a way that elders can detect as a meaning that you are connected with a gateway somewhere. Then they watch you grow and they watch you act and react, and sooner or later, they will follow you to the gateway that you are connected with. Now, gay people have children because they're fertile, just like everyday people. How I got to know that they were gay was because on arriving in this country and seeing this serious issue surrounding gay people, I began to wonder, it does not exist in my own country. When I asked one of them who had taken me to the threshold of the other world whether he feels sexual attraction towards another man, he jumped back and said, "How do you know that?" He said, "This is our business as gatekeepers," and yet he had a wife and children. No problem, you see? So then, to limit gay people to simple sexual orientation is really the worst harm that can be done to a person. That all he or she is a sexual person. And personally, because of the fact that my knowledge of indigenous medicine ritual comes from gatekeepers, it's hard for me to take this position that gay people are the negative breed of a society. No. In a society that is profoundly dysfunctional, what happens is that the people's life purposes are taken away, and what is left is this kind of sexual orientation, which in turn is disturbing to the very society that created it. I think this is again victimization by a Christian establishment that is looking at a gay person as a disempowered person, a person who has lost their job from birth onward, and now society just wants to fire them out of life. This is not justice. It's not justice. It is a terrible harm done to an energy that could have saved the world, that could save us. If today we are suffering from a gradual ecological waste, this is simply because the gatekeepers have been fired from their job. They have been fired. They have nothing to do. And because they have been fired, we accuse them of doing nothing. We accuse them for not doing anything, and this is not fair. Let us look at the earth differently And we will find out gradually that these people that are bothering us today are going to start taking their posts. They know what their job is. You just have to get near them to feel that they don't vibrate the same way. They are not of this world. They come from the other world, and they were sent here to keep the gates open to the other world, because if the gates are shut, this is when the earth, Mother Earth, will shake, because it has no more reason to be alive. It will shake itself, and we will be in deep trouble. Bert responds, Christianity has separated spirit from body and spirit from earth. And earlier you talked to us about Christianity suppressing your culture. So there is a suggestion here that suppression of homosexuality would be the way for the Christians to shut down the gateways, shut down the spirit, and shut down our connection with the earth. Dr. Malidoma responds, yes, that's right. Christianity stresses postponing living on earth as if we are only here to pack up our baggage and prepare for a life somewhere else out there. Jesus Christ is right here, and of course anyone else who knows more, who knows better, will be suppressed. And you start with the gatekeepers. You take the gatekeeper and you confuse their mind, you threaten them, and you throw them in the middle of nowhere. Then nobody knows where the gate is. As soon as you lose the whereabouts of the gate, when you have a culture going downhill, what keeps a village together is a handful of gays and lesbians, and they call them in the modern world. In my village, lesbians are called witches, and gay men are known as the gatekeepers. These are the two only known secret society. These are the only groups that will get together as a separate group and go out into the woods secretly to do whatever they do, and if they find you during their yearly symposium, they have the right to kill you. Unless they go out on their yearly symposium, the village cannot be granted another year of life. They have to go out to do what they do in order for the village to feel safe enough to live the way it has lived before. This is why, to me, we're playing with our lives. This constantly reiterated discomfort and hatred for the gay person is again another indication that every year we might as well be prepared for the apocalyptic moment when the stars start to fall to the earth. You see, unless there is somebody who constantly monitors the mechanisms that opens a door from this world to the other world, what happens is that something can happen to one of the doors and it closes up. When all the doors are closed, this earth runs out of its own orbit and the solar system collapses into itself. And because the system is linked to other systems, they do start to fall into a whirlpool, and the cataclysm could be amazing. Ask the Dogon. They will tell you that. The Dogon, they're a tribe that understands it so well. It's amazing, mind-boggling. And it is a tribe that knows astrology like no other tribe that I've ever encountered. And the great astrologers of the Dogon are gay. They are gay. This is a dull planet that is in its orbit. It is directly above the Dogon village every 58 years. Who knows that but the gay people? I mean, I'm not just trying to make gay people look fine. This is the truth. Why is it that everywhere else in the world gay people are a blessing, and in the modern world they are a curse? It is self-evident the modern world was built by Christianity. They have taken the gods out of the earth, sent them to heaven, wherever that is, and everyone who aspires to the gods must then negotiate with Christianity so that the real priests and priestesses are out of a job. This is the worst thing that can happen to a culture that calls itself modern. Bert responds, that theme came up earlier with you, the Mayan shaman here, that if a modern society wants to shut down another culture, they will go out and kill the keepers of the ritual. Dr. Malidoma responds, oh yes, because they know that this is where the life pulse of the culture is. This is where the engine room of the tribe is. So if you go and bomb that place, then the whole mechanism shuts down. That's pretty much what's at work in the third world. And what has happened here is with the Native American culture, and the thing about it is that humans are going to be getting gatekeepers no matter what. This is a chance that we've got. So maybe that means that sooner or later we're going to wake up to the horror of our own errors, and we're going to reconsecrate our chosen people so that they can do their priestly work as they should. Otherwise, I just don't understand. I just don't understand. My position about it is not so much that gays and lesbians should just be within this type of tokenism, but that they serve as an example of the wrong or the illness that modernity has brought to us, and that we use that to begin working at healing ourselves and our society from the bottom up. That way, by the time we reach a certain level, all the gatekeepers are going to find their positions again. We cannot tell them where the gates are. They know. If we start to heal ourselves, they will remember. It will kick in. But as long as we continue to in arrogance and in egotism and God knows what form of violence on ourselves, no, there's that veil of confusion that's going to continue to prevail. And as a result, it's going to prevent great things from happening. That's all I can say about that. In a follow-up audio recording, as this now concludes the interview of Dr. Malidoma Somé and Bert, I am going to expound upon my thoughts surrounding what I have read here. And I know that there are people that are going to have certain feelings and opinions about what I read as being a monolith. However, this is why those that have the ears to hear and the interest to really see it from the perspective of others will be able to experience what indigeneity and the realms that exist therein, that there is not one way of looking at a certain thing. And I also will state here at this time that I find it interesting that for some people, they will pick and choose what information serves them, as Elder Sobonfu Somé and her husband, Dr. Malidoma Somé, are very well respected in infinite communities around the world. For those that resonate more with the heteronormative aspects, and herein where both of them have expressed how they have experienced their Dagara culture to be quite inclusive and respectful of all people, it is interesting how there is pushback and gaslighting and denying that same-sex loving people have existed and the purpose that they have served. So as I said, I'll expound more on that in another audio recording. And until next time, may you all have a luminous odyssey. Those of you that are NeuroDistinct and you sentient ones, remember to embrace your nature. It has the roots to restore you. I am Iset, and Iset the Mic.